So, my sister decides to make this huge family announcement right during a family get together and dining experience. Guys, when I tell you what she said, you're going to freak out because it involves me and it involves everyone in our family. Let me tell you about the crazy story of my backstabbing sister.
Hello everyone, you can call me OP. I've got quite a story to share with you, and I think a lot of you will get a kick out of it. There's a lot of background I need to share with you, so this all makes sense. So this is going to be pretty long. To kick things right off the bat, let's just say I'm not exactly a stranger to family, drama, or toxic family dynamics. Allow me to introduce you to my spoiled, rude, foul little sister, Melanie. First, me and Melanie never got along. Even when we were little girls growing up, it always seemed as if I was held to a different standard than she was. I was the one who was expected to be mature, be the big person, and be responsible. I know it's normal for parents to spoil the younger sibling a bit, and obviously this tends to create a bit of jealousy. But these things are supposed to pass, yet it seemed like Melanie was always just treated like the baby of the family, the special little girl who could do no wrong. She's only 2 years younger than I am, but even to this day, everyone in the family treats her like she's 9 years old. What Melanie has going for her that I don't is her manipulation of people. She always has been super social, and once she gets to talking, she can convince any crowd to be on her side. I've always had trouble socializing. I was the meek, quiet, studious, nerdy girl when we were in school. And Melanie was on the cheerleading team. She never failed to make my life a living hell at school, and my parents would dismiss it as sisters being sisters whenever I tried to bring this up to them. The abuse did not end at home, where Melanie was always the star of the show. Anything she wanted, she had it handed to her without having a lift of finger. While my family does seem to understand some of the problems me and Melanie have always had to an extent, the issue has always been just treated like it's my fault, and I never get over it. Out of respect for my family, I've always kept the peace and remained civil towards Melanie when we were, to interact at family functions or family dinners. But outside of situations where we are forced to be around each other, me and Melanie are not on speaking terms. I thought she would grow up eventually, but the reality is, she and, Melanie are just polar opposites as human beings. We go together like oil and water. I accepted that this is a fact a long time ago, and have often bit my tongue and swallowed my pride just to keep things civil and respectable for my family. And before any of you think I sound like petulant one here, it's not as if Melanie has ever tried to make amends with me. Even when I try to be friendly at family functions, Melanie is often curt and short with me. You see, she has an alcohol problem and can get quite a nasty attitude when she has a few drinks. I've always been able to handle my alcohol, but Melanie can't. So there comes a point at every family function when she'll make at least one rude comment just to me. If I show any sort of signs of being upset by her comments, I'm always expected to, quote, be the big person. I ignore it. I know my mom is old-fashioned. She's 63, elderly, but sometimes it drives me wild how much she's willing to stick her head in the sand and never stand up to Melanie and tell her to quit messing around. It's not like Melanie is just my problem either. I mean, she can barely keep a job, frequently has to ask family members for money, and she even has a GoFundMe, a Cash App link, and all that in her social media, and often relies on the generosity of internet strangers. But now that she's getting older and she doesn't look as good as she did when we were younger, even that is, starting to dry up. And she's taking a hitting up mom every month for money any chance that she gets. Sure, Melanie sometimes will go out to DoorDash and work for Uber Eats, and she's worked at several fast food restaurants, but her alcoholism and her bad attitude keep her away from every true advancement in life. I don't want mom to sound like a bad person here either. I mean, I think she might have a psychological problem. Whenever I try to convince her to cut off Melanie and stop bailing her out, mom acts like it's her life's purpose to help her kids for their entire lives. I think she would not even know what to do with herself if she did not have Melanie's drama in her life. Melanie is such an energy vampire that your entire world can often revolve around her and you won't even realize she's manipulating you. Mom is especially depressed since our father died several years back. I think running around taking care of Melanie's every whim keeps her from having to face grief and loneliness. Like I said, Mom is an old Southern woman who comes from a time when family was not honest about mental health and similar issues that people care about nowadays. Now that I've gotten all that out of the way, I want to go ahead and get you up to speed on why I'm even here typing this post today. First, I should probably tell you about my abusive ex-husband, Jimmy. Now, for all my experience dealing with a manipulative narcissist in Melanie my entire life, you would have thought I would have spoiled Jimmy's multitude of red flags right off the bat. But I was young, stupid, and blinded by the truth. Jimmy is a manipulator on par with Melanie, and he's the type of man who will hit you and convince you it's your own fault. I'm not even kidding. The guy made my life a living hell. It was a case where he initially started off as a sweet, loving boyfriend and slowly showed more and more of his true colors. Even my family was swayed by his social tactics. He was always friendly and charming at the family functions when I'd invite him at first, and Mom and even Melanie would talk about how nice and handsome Jimmy was. Melanie made so many comments about how handsome Jimmy was that I began to think she was jealous of our relationship. But I'll tell you more about that in a minute. My point is, Jimmy pulled the rug over everybody's eyes. It wasn't long after we got engaged that he began showing his true colors, getting violent and angry at the drop of a hat. It had not helped that Jimmy's father was a rich CEO named Greg, who spoiled Jimmy even more than Mom spoiled Melanie. Jimmy initially lied at the start of our relationship, telling me that he was soon to take over his father's business, huge, multi-million-dollar company. I soon found out that Jimmy was actually working at a very low rank at his dad's office, while Greg kept spoiling him. He had no intentions of letting Jimmy actually take over the reins on his life's work, the company that he built from the ground up. Jimmy was also a horrible alcoholic. He acted like he was just a social party drinker at first, but I soon found out that he was drinking, even in secrecy, nearly every day. All day. I finally managed to break free from Jimmy's lies and manipulation, and I got the courage to divorce his sorry butt. It wasn't an easy road, but I threw the party the day our divorce was finalized. That's how much I wanted this man out of my life, and behind me for good. I wanted to forge a new path, and I don't want any reminders of my past or the abuse that I suffered at the hands of Jimmy. Well, fast forward to recently, and you can imagine the surprise, shock, and horror that I felt when I found out the news that my rotten sister Melanie had recently gotten engaged to Jimmy. How could she do this to me? I know me and Jimmy weren't together anymore. It's not like I was jealous of the fact that they were together, but with my entire family knowing how much Jimmy abused me, I could not help but feel disrespected, as if Melanie had only gotten engaged to Jimmy just to spite me and give me yet another slap in the face. Obviously, I can't do much of anything about it if Melanie and Jimmy feel like they're, in love. I'm sure they're perfect for each other considering how toxic, how manipulative that they truly are. But if Jimmy is Melanie's husband, that means I'm going to be forced to see him at every family function, and yeah, it might sound silly to those who have not experienced it, but coming face to face with your abuser after you finally got them out of your life is a traumatic experience I would not wish anybody to deal with. Of course, I tried explaining this to Mom, and while she admitted that it was strange of Melanie to choose to get engaged with Jimmy, considering all we knew about him, she still defended Melanie's decision as her own and reiterated the fact that I was still expected to, quote, keep things civil and peaceful at the upcoming family function. While I was still completely incensed at this reaction to my problem, I could not say I was surprised by my mom's dismissal of my feelings yet again. Once I tried to suck things up and be the big person, my fears were assuaged a bit when I found out Jimmy was not going to be present at the upcoming family function. but I was still not excited to see Melanie one bit. When I showed up to the family event, it's clear Melanie had already been drinking, and she was only getting drunk as the evening went on. Things were as civil as they could be initially, but things soon began to spiral while we were all seated at the dining table. Melanie began boasting about hooking up with a guy as handsome as Jimmy. She just could not stop raving about him, and the rest of the family is well aware of what a jerk Jimmy is, but none of them had the guts to say anything to Melanie. I could feel my blood beginning to boil, yet I sat there and endured this crap like I always do. I knew Melanie was just trying to get under my skin, but once again it was working. Finally, I got some satisfaction from the whole ordeal when one of the funniest things in the world happened. Melanie began asking me questions about how much money I got from me and Jimmy's divorce, putting aside the sheer rudeness of the question to begin with, especially at a family dining party. I had to chuckle a bit when she asked, did she truly believe I got any money out of this guy who doesn't have a penny to his name beyond what his father gives to him to spend on booze and drugs? I asked Melanie why she was asking this question. Melanie told me that she could not figure out why I would have wanted to divorce a rich CEO who could have taken care of me for the rest of my life. My jaw dropped, and my fork nearly fell out of my hand. Was Melanie joking with all this nonsense? I could see the rest of the family beginning to smirk and look at Melanie with bemused apprehension at what her line of reasoning could possibly be. That's when she said she was happy she's now going to be the wife of a rich CEO. The entire dinner table erupted in laughter. Cousins, aunts, uncles, everyone, even mother laughed. A look of confusion and anger fell over Melanie's face, and I figured out what happened right away. Melanie, the queen of manipulation, had already fallen victim to Jimmy's manipulation herself. Darn, he's an expert at this sort of thing. I must admit, after the laughter died down, I politely explained to Melanie that Jimmy is only the son of a rich CEO who pays for all his bills and drugs. The guy doesn't have a dime to his name. Melanie began screaming and crying and ran out of the dining party. I couldn't believe it. Of course, Mom ran after her, trying to calm her down, but I loved to see her little tantrum. It was so satisfying to watch. I just wanted to share this story with you all, but I have a feeling this won't be the last I have to deal with this drama. Melanie is a vindictive individual, and there's no telling what she's capable of when Jimmy, is around to egg her on. Update number 1. Hey everyone, OP here for another update. First, I'd like to thank everybody who read my original post and left kind and supportive comments. I'm glad I'm not the only one out there who has to deal with people like Melanie and Jimmy in their lives, so it's a relief to see all the great feedback I've gotten from people. Wish I could say that all this stuff is over, but I know Melanie's trying to, going to look to get even with me for humiliation that she suffered at the dinner. And after the conversation I had with Mom today, I think I know what sorts of trick my foul sister has up her sleeves. So for a couple of days after the disastrous dinner party that ended with Melanie running out in tears, cursing my name in vain, I got nothing but radio silence, and the family was understandably a bit shaken and uncomfortable from such a bizarre outburst. And I think everybody just wanted to forget about it and move on, as they do with everything else in this emotionally distant family of mine. Well, today I finally heard from Mom. The phone call started fine, cordial enough, and we were just having our usual mother-daughter conversation about life. That's when Mom's tone changed, and she said she had something important she needed to discuss. I asked, what's going on, Mom? And that's when I was loaded this crap of junk I'm about to share with you people. So do you all remember Jimmy's dad, Greg, from my original post? That rich CEO who spoiled Jimmy and bailed him out of everything. Turns out Greg's finally gotten sick of Jimmy's behavior himself and has, according to Mother, cut him off completely. If this is true, which I highly doubt, you might be wondering, what could this business possibly have to do with me or my life? Well, Mom fed some sob story about how Melanie and Jimmy were going to fall on hard times, and she even asked if I would consider helping pay for their wedding. While I did not wish to disrespect my mother, I almost asked her if she had lost her damn mind. I wanted to curse at her, but I held my tongue out of respect. I could feel my blood pressure beginning to rise. Did she truly think I would be willing to help pay for Melanie and Jimmy's wedding when I didn't even support the union? She's out of her mind. Marbles are gone. I told her no uncertain terms that this would not be happening. Update number 2. Hey everyone, OP here. Unfortunately, I've got another update for you all, and I wish all this junk would just blow over and go away. But it seems like my family's getting sillier and sillier by the day. I can't even believe what's happened, and I have to admit I'm livid. I need to vent, and I don't know where else to turn, because it's beginning to feel as if I have nobody left who's on my side. So if you've been keeping up so far, which I appreciate if you have, you'll know that Mom had the nerve to ask me to help pay for Melanie and Jimmy's wedding. I was so incensed. I told her no as firmly yet politely as I could, and I hung up the phone. I was insulted, frankly, that she would even ask. Well, now I'm starting to think I should have just sucked it up and agreed to pay for this stupid wedding, because now things have gone even crazier with all the drama. So, Mom called me on the phone today, and things were a bit weird at first, but I was trying to proceed with a normal conversation and forget about what she asked me the other day. Well, Mom found a way to tick me off even more. I could feel my blood pressure shooting through the roof, and body began to tense up as Mom began doing it in stupid, random spiels about how Jimmy was working on, quote, changing his ways and being a better man. That poor fool, these were all things Jimmy told me years ago, and he's still the same guy he was when, well, we were together. But I guess Jimmy was able to successfully manipulate Mom yet again, because she's informing me on the phone today that she's allowing Melanie and Jimmy to move into her house until they're able to, quote, get back on their feet and get their finances in order after the wedding. What the heck? So now I can't even visit Mother without having to see Melanie and Jimmy. I've heard this story before. Jimmy has no intentions of getting back on his feet. He was never on his feet to begin with. He's just going to be sitting around on Mom's couch drinking beer all day. I can't believe this. And to make matters worse, Mom expects me to go to a dinner party that's intended to be a housewarming party for Melanie and Jimmy. This just keeps getting more and more ridiculous. Update number 3. Hello, back for an update. A lot of people were asking about the dining party coming up, and whether or not I'd intend to go. I was on the fence, but I decided to attend the party. I didn't want Melanie and Jimmy to know how upset I was, and I wanted them to believe that I wasn't even the slightest bit bothered by all their recent stunts. Of course, leading up to the party, all I heard from Mom was how Jimmy was changing his ways and straightening up his life, cutting back on drinking even, and looking for jobs. Yeah, I've heard all these lies before, and I can't believe Mom was falling for it. Well, I want to say that after what happened at this dinner party, I don't think anyone's ever going to doubt a word I say about Jimmy ever again. First, it was hard enough to even make myself go. The entire time I was getting dressed and getting ready for the party, I was overcome with anxiety about what might happen. Sure enough, my suspicions were confirmed shortly after I arrived. Well, Jimmy had not, quote, cut back on drinking at all. Maybe he cut back on drinking enough in the days before the party in order to fool Mom or fool Melanie, but I could see that he was knocking back beers like they were going out of style. I immediately began to get nervous and started having flashbacks to how Jimmy would act when he was drunk. His behavior grew rowdy and obnoxious, and his voice got loud, and his attitude got even worse. I'd been trying to avoid Melanie and Jimmy all evening, but their drunken historics were too much to ignore. Jimmy began ranting to me about how it's nonsense that I've decided to leave him, and he started saying it's all my fault that we can never work out our differences, and he's had the nerve to say all this right there in front of Melanie, who looked confused but almost too drunk to even realize what was happening. I was overcome with anger and got into a shouting match with Jimmy, and then my memory went blank. I woke up in a hospital bed, and that's where I'm currently typing this. I was informed that Jimmy had to got so angry at the party he took full bottles of beer and threw it directly at my head. The impact knocked me out immediately, and Jimmy was arrested. I just wanted to tell you what happened. I'm going to need some time to recover. Update number 4. Hey everyone, I'd like to thank you for the kind supportive comments I got in my last update. Abuse is never easy to go through, and if my family had just listened to me to begin with, this never would have happened. I'm out of the hospital now, and I'd like to thank everybody who asked if I was okay. Many of you asked if I pressed charges against Jimmy. You can bet your rear end I pressed charges on him. Maybe now he'll finally be held accountable for his actions. Well, Melanie is still not speaking to me the other night. Mom called me to apologize for everything. I didn't expect her to have a change of heart, but I guess seeing the abuse I suffered from Jimmy firsthand changed things for her. What I'm not looking forward to is how I have to go to court to testify against Jimmy. As much as I want to see him get justice, I don't even want to be in the same room as that man. It's clear I'm not safe anywhere near him, whether my family realizes it or not. Here's what surprised me the most. I get a call from Greg today. I still had his number on my phone from when I married Jimmy. Greg had heard about everything that happened, and he began to apologize profusely to me. And I almost did not even answer his phone call because I thought he would just defend Jimmy, but Greg actually offered to testify against Jimmy. He wanted Jimmy to finally get a consequence for his actions in life, and I'm not sure why this was a wake-up call for Greg, but I'm happy he had a change of heart. Update number 5. Hey guys, OP here, back for a final update. It's been a while since my last post, but I've been busy with everything and a lot of changes have happened in my life. This is going to be my final update on this saga. I just wanted to wrap this up for everybody because I could not have gotten this ordeal without all of your kind words and support and great advice that you've given me. Well, court was very, very stressful, but it went as well as I could have hoped for. Melanie was not even there to show support for Jimmy. She's still upset about all this, and I don't think she even wanted to show her face in the courtroom since Jimmy embarrassed her so much the other night at the party. Maybe she could have listened to me about Jimmy to begin with. I could tell Jimmy was livid to see his own father testify against him. He stated that he had been a witness to tons of violence and abuse while we were married, and he testified that the behavior Jimmy displayed at the party was not out of the ordinary for Jimmy. Well, it was a lengthy jail sentence that he was sentenced to, especially considering that it wasn't even close to the first run-in Jimmy had with the law. After Jimmy was taken off to jail, me and Greg were standing around chit-chatting about court. I told him it was brave what he's done in that courtroom. Greg apologized again, saying Jimmy spoiled rotten because of his actions. Greg admitted that if he had let Jimmy get his comeuppance ages ago, all this could have been avoided and maybe Jimmy might have became a different person. It's too late to change any of it now, of course, but I'm just glad to get some recognition for the stuff I went through with Jimmy. And I'm just glad Jimmy isn't around anymore. He's going to be locked up far away where he can't hurt me or any other women any longer. I know Melanie is still upset about all this, and I don't have any intentions of letting her back into my life after what happened. Jimmy was the last straw. Melanie will have to prove herself to me again before I give her another chance.
So Melanie is like a sister from a nightmare. So let's go ahead and put ourselves in OP's perspective. In OP's shoes, I want to know in our comment section down below underneath this video, what would you have done when you find out the truth that your sister is planning to marry your ex-husband because she thinks he's some hotshot CEO and you know the whole truth? Let me know if you do something similar that OP did, or maybe you just take a completely different route. I want to know your thoughts, guys. Thank you for joining me on today's video. And if you want more daily drama stories, all you have to do is click that subscribe button. Once again, thank you for joining me on today's video. I'll see you tomorrow, but do remember one thing. It's cool to be kind. Peace.